All right, Alexander, let's talk about China. Let's talk about Pelosi in a Financial Times article. Pelosi, she's really busy stirring up a lot of trouble, but what the hell does she want to do by going? What is she looking for by going to Taiwan, to Taipei, traveling all the way over there? It's all just about poking the dragon at this point, poking China, because she's not really going to Taiwan to engage in any type of diplomacy or foreign policy stuff like that. I mean, it's just basically a trip to annoy China. That's all it is. And well, they're sending Pelosi because Pelosi, they got to get a return on their investment from Pelosi before she exits the chair of the House Speaker. So I'm sure the powers that be are saying, Pelosi, you're going to go. I don't care what you do when you're there. I don't care who you see. Just go there, get off the plane, take some photos, annoy the Chinese. Let's escalate with them, etc. And now you have the article from the Financial Times, which is claiming that they have, I believe they said like six unnamed sources, officials, who have told the Biden White House that if Pelosi goes through with this trip, well, then China may actually retaliate with by military means. Once again, they're saying they're citing unnamed sources, but China does not want this trip to go through. Would actually be the first trip by a Speaker of the House since 1997. I was reading. So, and it would call into question, according to the Chinese, the one China policy. It would signify some sort of break from that. So, Pelosi, what is we all know what she's being forced to do,
Yeah.
but it's this is very
Yes,
reckless.
absolutely. Now, can I just, flesh out your analysis because it's absolutely spot on. Now, Pelosi is the Speaker of the House of Representatives. She is not a member of the administration. It is the administration headed by the President which conducts the foreign policy of the United States. The Speaker of the House can't go to Taipei and announce that the United States recognizes Taiwan's independence, is going to make some kind give Taiwan some kind of military guarantee, do any of those things. Technically, legally, it is beyond her power to do. The United States government, the President, the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, if they were to go to Taipei and make those kind of announcements, they would be carrying the weight of the United States behind them. But let's be absolutely clear. Why is Pelosi going to Taipei, to Taiwan? Because the administration put her up to do it. Now, what they've been doing ever since Biden was elected is they've been playing this stupid, I say stupid dance with Beijing. They've been telling the Chinese, on the one hand, we continue to support the one China policy. We accept that there's only one China, that Taiwan is a part of that China, and we accept that the government of China is the government in Beijing. That's what they say to the Chinese. And at the same time, they do everything they can to convey the impression that the United States stands full square behind Taiwan, and they also do everything they can, but short of outright complete recognition. They do everything they can to give the impression that they regard Taiwan as an independent state, independent of China. So they play this complicated game. So they don't want to send an official from the administration. They don't want to send Blinken or Austin or, heavens help us, Biden himself to Taipei to make these kind of cast iron commitments, these kind of commitments that the US government can make. They send Pelosi instead. So they can come along and they can pretend to the Chinese, well, this is her own private initiative. We in the executive branch have nothing to do with this. This is all, Pelosi's private initiative. If she goes on and says things like, the United States stands full square behind Taiwan, don't take it completely seriously. The trouble is The Chinese are not stupid people, and they're not buying it. Now, yesterday, I was reading an article in Global Times, which is this English language newspaper, which is published by the People's Daily, which is the official newspaper of the Chinese Communist Party. And they said very straightforwardly, the only way Pelosi could be going to Taiwan is with the assistance and help of the administration. She's clearly going there as an unofficial envoy of the administration. She's clearly going in order, exactly as you said, to poke us, to poke the dragon. And we're not deceived. We're not fooled by any of this. And we are going to respond. And we've now got these reports, and I'm sure these are true because the Chinese have all but confirmed this, that in private, the Chinese have been giving very strong warnings, apparently the strongest warnings they've ever given to the US about the direction of US policy towards Taiwan. And they made it absolutely clear that they will respond, and they haven't said how they will respond, but they've left open the possibility that it will be a military response, that they will respond strongly if Pelosi goes to Taiwan. Now, it turns out that some people in the administration, Jake Sullivan in particular, who I suspect is the person who's come up with this brilliant idea of sending Pelosi there, he and Blinken together, they're now beginning to get cold feet about this because they didn't quite expect that the Chinese reaction would be as strong as it is. And there may be some attempt over the next few days to get Pelosi to call off her visit. But I'm not convinced that's going to happen. And I suspect there'll be other voices in the administration who will say we must proceed with it. Because if Pelosi doesn't go, then it will look as if the administration has been humiliated and has had to back down in the face of Chinese threats. And you can imagine what the Republicans are going to make of that in the run-up to the midterms. So I think the most likely outcome is that this thing has now got out of control, but Pelosi will still go to Taipei, and people like Sullivan and Blinken and all the others will keep their fingers crossed and hope that the Chinese are bluffing. Now, I don't know whether the Chinese are bluffing or not. I don't personally think they are. I still don't think that they're looking for war, for outright war over Taiwan, but there will be some kind of Chinese reaction. And what that's going to be, I'm not even going to try and guess.
Yeah, the whole thing is just so dumb. God, just when you think that this tag team of Blinken and Sullivan can't do any more dumb things, any more stupid things, they go off and concoct this little Pelosi to Taipei stunt, and that's what it is. It's a stunt, and they want a distraction. I'm convinced they want a way to distract from Ukraine, and then they also want to see if they can actually stir up some trouble with China. What their end goal is, I still, do you really want to go to war with China? Is that really your end goal, or is it something else that you're looking to do? Do you think that you can somehow create a collapse in China, much along the same lines that you thought you could create a regime change in Russia? Is that what they're thinking? I mean, I just can't quite understand. Have these guys, do they have a plan, a 3-month, 6-month, 2-year, 5-year plan with regards to how they want to deal with China, what their plans are with China, and Pelosi, this Pelosi trip is somehow connected to that? Or is this just two guys sitting in the White House, kind of, spitballing ideas to each other, and the one guy thinks the other guy has a smarter idea, and they're saying, "Oh yeah, let's send Pelosi. Yeah, that'll be good. That'll really, irk the Chinese, and then maybe Xi Jinping's government will collapse." I mean, I don't understand what's going through these guys' heads.
Well, I think you got it exactly right. I think that's exactly what they think. I think that is exactly what they do. I think that this is schoolboy games played by two overgrown schoolboys. I mean, Blinken is, a man, I believe, in his 60s, but I mean, he comes across as extremely immature. And I have to say, Sullivan the same. I think they're way out of their depth. And as you rightly say, I think they're playing these games all the time. I think partly they want to divert attention from the economic crisis, from Ukraine, which is going hideously wrong. So, they say, let's stir up something in Taiwan. We can control it. It won't get out of hand. We'll send Pelosi to Taiwan. We'll pretend that it's not really us, that we don't really agree with it. But of course, it's really the game that we're playing. And then, of course, shock horror. They get these warnings from Beijing, which are much, much stronger than they expected. And now they're running around and they're saying, what do we do? What do we do? And I think that's exactly right. I mean, bear in mind, they did think, of this I'm no doubt at all, they did think when they announced those sanctions against Russia back in February, that would cause, the Russian economy to collapse in a heap and that Putin would fall. I've just done a program on my channel, by the way, about the latest statements from Nabulina, the chairman of the Russian Central Bank, about the true state of the Russian economy and what's really happening there and its actual problems, and it's which are completely different from the ones that people like Blinken and Sullivan imagined. But anyway, I think that's what they thought with Russia. I think they thought the same with China. They thought that this is a brittle authoritarian dictatorship. It survives through control, that we can create a crisis in China and Xi Jinping's rule will collapse and crumble, and it's not going to happen, not in the way that they think it will. What is going to happen instead is that they're going to solidify Chinese opinion behind Xi Jinping and his government, just as they've solidified Russian opinion behind Vladimir Putin and his government. And I still don't think that they really are going to start a war with China over Taiwan. I think that'd be a crazy thing to do. But even if they don't want it, they're drifting dangerously close to it because of these schoolboy games that they're playing. I've said this. We've said this months ago. This is the most incompetent, the most amateur administration in US history. And that's saying an awful lot.
Two final questions. What do you make of the fact that Blinken and Sullivan are two Clintonistas? I mean, they're from the Clinton school of things. I mean, Blinken and Sullivan were pretty much put in the White House by the Clinton machine. Do you think there's anything there with regards to these two guys, Dumb and Dumber, over there stirring up all kinds of troubles? And Mark Milley, his statement in Indonesia saying that China is pretty much the greatest threat to the U.S. military and to U.S. allies in the region as well. So he's also kind of stirring up trouble.
Absolutely, of course he is. Now let's talk about Sullivan and Blinken. It's absolutely true that it has massive bearing that they come out of this particular political stable, the Clinton machine, because of course the Clinton machine, let's put it like this, is not a good training ground for people who have to deal with foreign policy, diplomacy. It's very good in public relations, manipulation of politics within the United States, pulling levers, carrying out intrigues, that kind of thing. But if you're talking about statecraft, diplomacy, it's not a particularly good place to train people. And in terms of Blinken and Sullivan, there's another thing as well, which is, of course, you mentioned the fact that Newt Gingrich went to Taipei as Speaker of the House of Representatives in 1997. Well, of course, what happened then was that China huffed and puffed and expressed intense annoyance about this, and Clinton sent an aircraft carrier to the Taiwan Straits, and China backed down. But that was, of course, in 1997.
Clinton was president.
Clinton was president, and it's
Any
very
coincidence?
easy. No, I don't think it is any coincidence.
No,
I
no,
think
I'm saying
this is
now.
it's not a coincidence. I mean, Sullivan and Blinken will remember that. The Clintonistas will remember that. They will think that they can repeat again what Clinton managed to do in 1997. Of course, the relative balance of power between China and the US has transformed since then. But I don't think that they really see that, or perhaps they haven't seen that until now. But, you know, you can so easily see, you know, they'll say to themselves, well, we pulled it off in 97, so why can't we do the same all over again this time and humiliate Xi Jinping a bit more? And that's how this whole debacle is coming about. And as for Milley, well, I think he is absolutely a signed up member of this group. He's part of the sort of the Democrat political club. I mean, we saw that in the last weeks of the Trump administration, in the first weeks of this administration, where he took particular positions. I don't want to say too much, but we all know what I'm talking about. And of course, he comes along, he mouths the same things about China as this group within the White House is doing. Now, I happen to agree in a way. I know, in the sense, I do think that it is China, not Russia, that is the long-term challenge to the US. But the way Milley is saying it at this time is provocative. And of course, when you've got a crisis over Taiwan, over the horizon, talking in this kind of way is going to escalate the crisis, not de-escalate it. And it appears to be part of encouraging the moves of Blinken and Sullivan, which have led to Pelosi being signed up for this trip to Taipei. So that's I think, why Milley is talking in this fashion.
Yeah. How much damage this Clinton-run Department of State has done is immeasurable.
It's off the scale. It's completely off the scale. I mean, Clinton populated the State Department, and the intelligence agencies with neocons and liberal interventionists. And you see the result. Nobody's ever been able to winkle them out since. And they're doing enormous damage.
Yeah. Any other final thoughts before we sign off? There's a big story.
I think we'll get out of this one. I think that probably, hopefully, they'll find a way of, postponing, if you like, indefinitely Pelosi's trip. I think that we'll avoid a smash this time. But again, it's alarming how close to a smash we've got. And of course, if I'm wrong, and if we do have a crisis in the Pacific, well, I mean, if you're worried about what's happened to the world economy because of the Ukraine and the sanctions on Russia, well, that's going to be like a picnic compared to what's going to happen if there's a war in the Pacific between China and the US over Taiwan.
All right. The Duran.locals.com. Duran shop, 10% off. Use the code. Good day. Look for us on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, and Telegram. Definitely look for our Telegram channel as well. Take care.